Killer Radio. Slava Ukraini!
Dang, people showing up. Morning, Marcus. Morning, Firefella. Hey, Marcus, you remember that headache I had when you went to bed? All I get is a thumbs up. Cannot unmute right now because I am entering the co-host space. Oh, Firefella remembers the headache that I had when Marcus went to bed.
Morning.
Actually, Mockers made my headache a lot better than it could have been, but I still have that fucking that headache. Anyway, such is life. Mockers, are you able to speak yet?
Yes.
Okay, just checking on you. Because I have a
Damn.
time. I have a
I
time.
need to put the bin out. So do a little bit of a timestamp for me while I run and put the bin out.
I will do a little bit of a timestamp for you. It is 7:01 a.m. in Titty Ho in the UK. So watch out where you're going. You may run into a Titty Ho. It's 7:01 a.m. in the UK on Tuesday, July 14th. I've been planning that in Dick, just outside of Stuttgart, Germany. It is 8:01 a.m. and in Pupka, Ukraine, where the belly button of Ukraine is, it is 9:02 a.m. and in the workers' paradise, it is 2:02 p.m. Which is why I don't see Will. I would bet you he's off having a brew somewhere. So maybe we'll put him in Hangover Bay today. It is 3:02 p.m. in on the Kinki Expressway in the Osaka, Japan area. I wonder if they have any rest stops with sake for sale in the vending machines. And at Prominent Knob in Australia, it is 3:32 p.m. On Mount Misery in Australia, it is 4:02 p.m. On PP Island in Newfoundland, it is 3:32 a.m. and I'm sure I'm not still saying that quite right still, but it is what it's going to be. On PP Township, Ohio, it is 2:03 a.m. I seem to have gotten into a theme here in Ding Dong, Texas. It is it is currently 1:03 a.m. And in where am I going now? Westward Ho. You keep those hoes together. Westward Ho, Alberta. It is 12:03 a.m. And in Poo Poo Point, Washington, or Poo Poo Creek, British Columbia, it is 11:03 p.m. And in Chicken, Alaska, it is 10:03 p.m. Alaska, where Sarah Palin can see Russia from her house. That bitch finally admitted to quit stalking me, and that is what I know, other than I suppose I need to stuff a nest. And good morning, Mockers. Good morning, Firefella. It is good to see you both this morning. I will stuff your nest now.
Thank you. I've just run outside with the bin at high speed, so excuse me, slightly out of breath. But remembered. Well done, I'll say.
We need video evidence of the bin
Very,
run one
day. Yeah.
No, you really don't, because let's just say I had to do that with minimal clothing. Mainly because it's too damn hot, and I did not sleep hardly half the night because just cats were warm as well, and they were just pissing me off. And if Elmo could just stop waking up at 4:30 and telling me it's breakfast time, that would be nice. It just poking me in the face at 4:30, going, "Are you sure it's not breakfast time?" We had to have a little conversation, as you might imagine. So thank you. Yes, indeed, it was indeed dedicated to my bin run. So
I'll set them up. Where else is it hot, Mockers?
Fucking hot here too.
It's quite warm in a few places in Russia, to be fair.
Oh, Prince, please.
I know.
Are you seeing what she's
Whatever.
saying in the background? She's very cheeky. So yes, let us have a little look at a short rundown of oh, shit's on fire! Shit's on fire. So Gazprom, Neftekim Salvat in Russia's Bashkortostan. Now, would you believe this is one of Russia's largest oil refining complexes? Had a capacity of up to 10 million tons of crude oil per year. The facility combines an oil refinery, a major petrochemical complex, and a gas chemical plant. Oh dear. Fuel, you say? Petrochemical? That's you've already got a few problems there, haven't you? Unlucky. Most importantly, though, Salavat is one of the most distant Russian refineries that has ever been struck by Ukrainian long-range drones. Approximately 810 miles, 1,300 kilometers from the Ukrainian border. Way over there. Over there. So, beautiful, beautiful work. In fact, that was not the only place that's been on fire this morning. There was quite the busy, shall we say. So here is a short chronicle by Max 26 of what's happened overnight, because keeping up is it's one of those things that we sort of struggle to do these days. So Donetsk, there was a nice ammunition warehouse popping off over there. Plenty of disco lights and very, very nice sympathetic target. And I tried to write that, and I think this app, and for some reason AI is trying to fight me on my phone. And so every time I write a word, it changes it. And so it's a sympathise target, because it decided it didn't want me to say sympathetic. Honestly, I did not choose that word. I wrote sympathetic, and by the time I posted it, it had changed. And I'm like, MFer, do what I say. I'm in charge here. It really annoys me. Honestly, AI can fuck the fuck off. Sorry, excuse me, this personal problem. So, Krasnodar Cry. I don't know if you noticed, but a Fipsky seemed to be, getting in on the act, and probably the Fipsky refinery again. It's been visited a few times, this place, but these refineries, they're big, and they've got a lot of technical equipment. And what happens is they take out some of it, and then the Russians are not completely without resources, and they will find a way to restart at least parts of the refinery. And Ukraine has to come along and go, no, you don't. No, you don't. We're going to hit that bit too. So that's those. Then we have the substation in Kerch, another substation in, Crimea. But this is quite a big one. So this substation deals with the flow of 220, 110, and down to 10 kilovolt substation. So this is literally, servicing private homes. This is, servicing buildings, offices, residential buildings. And the answer is Crimea is closed for the season. Closed. So off you go. Pop home. Go back to Russia. Stay there. Berdiansk.
The bridge is still open, though. No, the bridge is still open, people. So you have a way home. I know Blackie is on one this morning. Sorry. Yes. Please use the bridge at your convenience, people, and fuck off.
Well, there's going to be Kalin's going to be releasing a interview with Magyar, and he says just that. He says the only reason the bridge is still open is to make an exit for people to go home. Honestly, I feel like they should, if they're so precise with their actions, which they usually are, I feel like they should take out the side of the bridge where people are incoming, and just go, no, not that way, go the other way. You know, because there's the rail part of the bridge, and then there's the incoming, and then there's the outgoing. And I think they should take the incoming lane out and just say, no, outgoing only. Because then that would, that would send a really clear message. We'll see. Anyway. So in Berdyansk, there has been a hit in the Azov Kabel plant. I don't know what they do, but I'm assuming they do war stuff because, it sounds like it, doesn't it? Melitopol. Now, I heard that there were booms in Melitopol before I went to bed, and I just, I was like, that's all I've got. That's all I got. So now I know exactly what it is. It was power infrastructure. As a result, a significant part of the Zaporizhzhia Oblast was left without power. Well, you know what to do, don't you? Ruskies, go home. Kherson Oblast. After a night attack again on power structure, so the occupied Kherson Oblast completely without power. Complete blackout. Nice. Sevastopol. There was indeed something cooking off in Sevastopol, something going boom. And the power supply went out there as well. Lovely. And then there's this Helenjik in Krasnodar Krai. A fire was recorded after an attack, but they're not quite sure what got hit there, but probably something important and war-related, obviously. And then just to top it off, just like the little cherry on the cake here, 10 ships were taken out in the Sea of Azov by our friend Magyar and his birds. Well, 10 and counting, no doubt, because, they just keep on at it, don't they? Relentless, some might say. Relentless.
What's the total on ships now, Mockers?
It's about 115, I think, off the top of my head.
Oh, very emotional. Poor little loves. They're getting no stuff through the Crimea. What a shame. What a shame.
Indeed. And for those who would like to argue against me, when all your gubbins that control your ship, the entire bridge is taken out, the ship owning company will not replace that. They just won't. It might not even cost that much, but they won't replace that. They'll just get another ship. Now, if everything else was in place and they had a hole in the hull, they would repair the hole in the hull. But they don't. Rip out all the flipping bridgehead and replace the entire part of that. They don't do it. So for those arguing the point that it can be replaced, but they won't do it. So, just take my word for it because I know a guy, okay? Honestly, people think I talk shit sometimes, and I'm like, well, if the truth is something that, you really don't want to listen to, fair enough. But honestly, I do my very best to never tell a lie because, or never knowingly tell a lie, put it that way, because it's just not something I do. I was brought up different. If ever a lie came out of my mouth, my father would knock me into next week. So, I just don't do it because I remember that shit. And besides, if you tell a lie, you've got to have a really, really good memory. And I don't have one of those. So let's just have a little look. Before last night, Russian oil refining fell to a 20-year low because of refinery strikes. This was reported by Bloomberg. Russian refineries are now only processing about 3.9 million barrels of oil per day, which is the lowest figure since 2005. I found that difficult to say then. 2005, that one. So over the past 100 days, about 50 Russian fuel infrastructure facilities have been hit, including at least 24 of the 34 largest refineries. I can't love this piece of news more. Ukraine are really, bringing on the relentless, aren't they? They basically said, oh, you think you're going to murder us? Well, with what? What are you going to use to move forward? Because you ain't got no fuel. And that is just chef's kiss, beautiful work.
Yeah. Only 410 drones last night. What's the matter with them? They're slacking. Was 800 the night before. Come on, chaps. Keep up.
Well, yes, but I think the ones the night before were sent specifically to clear the path for the ones following. We didn't see a massive amount of, damage and stuff from the extra that was sent yesterday. But I bet you they used up an awful lot of air defense missiles and stuff. I bet you that's what we're up to.
No, they did in several locations. The Russian air defense was very active in taking out different buildings in Moscow yesterday. Yeah, top work. Well played, gunners. You need a little star. Well played.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there was one area which was the whole street was completely flattened, and they said, well, one of our drones could not have done that. So it's absolutely going to be an air defense missile that landed in that district and flattened all those homes. What can I say other than unlucky? I have no real sympathy at this point. Fuck those guys. At this point, if you're still supporting the Kremlin and all of that, well, you're sadly mistaken in your whatever you're doing. Right. Let me just check that I've got. Yeah. Okay. Right. So that was that. Yes. And is there an updated version of this? There is an updated version of this. Right. Okay. I'm just keeping that. Sorry, I put a lot of things in my bookmarks yesterday, and I expected them to still be there. And guess what? Half of them are not. Russians also thought it was only them that could destroy, fuel filling stations. But the Ukrainian armed forces have said, you know what? If you're going to do that to us, well, guess what? You too will have no filling stations to queue at. So you're going to have to go, I don't know, queue for the toilets or something if you need to get your queuing out of the way. The Ukrainian armed forces have launched a massive attack on filling gas stations in the Kursk region. Now vehicles must only approach the pumps one at a time, while others remain at a safe distance, probably fighting over who goes next. The governor, Kinstein, I don't know, don't care, said refueling will be carried out in small groups only. Funny us. That's what you get. That's what you get. Now, I just said that Ukraine have been like, what air defense doing? It's blowing up. Well, the Kerch Bridge has been almost completely air defensed. Just a note from Drone Bomber. Back in 2014, Crimea was one of the most heavily defended regions. After occupying the peninsula, Russia deployed powerful air defense networks there of S-300 and S-400 systems, up to 6 to 8 battalions by early 2024. Dozens of Pantsir S-1 systems, numerous radar stations, including the Nebo-U and the Scala M, and even the latest S-500 air defense system, which was just an S-400 with a couple of extras tacked onto it. It wasn't that exciting. In addition, Russia also stationed specialized, trained air defense units and capable vessels in the Kerch Strait. One of which was the Project 21631 Buryan M missile ship, which was armed with Caliber cruise missiles and extensive air defense systems. Remember that little Dazzler ship that they made to try and protect the Kerch Bridge, which was full of, mirrors and shit? I'm just,
I do, Marcus. I do.
Just took me back there. That was the thing which came to mind when I heard that they had a ship out there, and I was like, that one, yeah. There was Project 636 Varshyvanka submarines, radar picket vessels, naval Pantsir ME air defense systems, and large landing ships that were also used for air defence. All of this was intended to create some kind of layered iron dome over Crimea and the Kerch Bridge. You know, the little timey-wimey things where everything goes fuzzy. One of them. Now, back in 2026, according to open source information, 66 air defence assets have currently been destroyed in Crimea just over the past 4 months alone. That's 30 launchers and Pantsir systems, 36 radar systems of various types. In the Kerch area, just by the bridge there, 6 radar systems and 5 launcher/air defence systems have reportedly been recently destroyed. Some of the systems that Russian forces hastily redeployed from around the bridge to Sevastopol, Yevpatoria, Simferopol, Vardiski were also successfully targeted. Because remember, Magyar's like a cat, and if it moves, he sees it. And today, Crimea is, well, they got their butt flapping in the breeze. They're exposed. Ukrainian drones cross the peninsula almost every single night. And the Kerch Bridge has to keep opening and closing because they're not sure whether it's going to be hit. Nearby tankers and other vessels are visibly burning from every coast. It seems to only be a matter of time. Ukraine is indeed just waiting for the right moment, and the bridge itself certainly is now living on borrowed time. When you build on stolen ground, don't be surprised when the owner comes back to reclaim what was left, what was taken. It seems quite clear to me that Ukraine can take out the bridge if they want to at this point. They might not be able to destroy it completely, but they could at least make it impassable. And they are, as Magyar is saying, leaving it open, closing the routes in, but not the route out. The bridge is only standing for one reason, so the occupiers can fuck off. I mean, you know, he's got away with words, hasn't he? So very beautiful, his language. So, yeah, and he also wants to advise that they're just getting started. It's nice, isn't it? So there was some air defence systems that were working I'm trying to think where it is now. I'll find it. I'll find it in my timeline because that particular there we go, found it. I was going to say that particular one from my bookmarks just wasn't there, and I remember putting it in there. So Krasnodar, there appears to have been some friendly fire, which is kind of unlucky. What air defence doing? Well, it's shooting the local environment. What's happened here is they've released a load of like, well, you know when you see these big thick red tracer fire? Well, it kind of looks like that, but it was all in one cluster and it didn't go up. It kind of just went off to the side and landed on the local neighbourhood. So I'm sure those people were really pleased about that. Really pleased. I'd be a little bit cheesed, to be absolutely honest, if that was to land on my property, just because, you know, after all these years, Russia just can't help shooting itself. Now, obviously, the Afipsky oil refinery is over in Krasnodar, and that would explain what Ukraine was going after. But just a little bit unfortunate that the Russians decided that they would shoot very low and basically just allow their munitions to land directly on the neighbours. They're very close neighbours rather than, you know, the neighbouring country. So let's just have a quick old look at the Afipsky oil refinery over here in Krasnodar. One of southern Russia's largest refineries, with possibly no longer processing capacity of 6.25 million tonnes per year, once again attacked. So it has been confirmed now it was the refinery. Of course, you'll be well aware that drones did not strike the refinery. No, debris from drones fell on the territory of the Afipsky oil refinery and another enterprise, they say. They don't tell us what that is. But a fire broke out. And just to have a quick look at Gelendzhik, there is a local resident who's taken a lovely video of a thick black fire ongoing near the airport there. So just retweet that one for you so you can just check that out. Make absolutely sure you know what you're looking at. And I don't know, that seems to be quite a big fire to me. So goodness knows what that is. And if only somebody would have given me some more information about the friendly fire incident which I was looking at, but no, apparently not. Apparently we're not doing that today. Right, okay, fine. Sorry. You know, this app, it is so good. It really is. It's just amazing. So, lots of things happened yesterday as well, but I thought I would just take us quickly over to Mali, where a convoy of government troops and the Russian Africa Corps were ambushed. It would seem that the Tuaregs really don't like Russia anymore. They don't want these Russian bastards living in their town, city, country, even. And they decided to get busy. And this attack was reported by Reuters. A convoy was accompanied by 200 Russian armed forces personnel. Only the convoy is now sort of mostly laid in a ditch, stuck in some mud or something. And despite some tankies in the comments being upset, it would appear that they're also, you know, the orcs, they're getting fucked up in Mali too. So somebody said, what is it with Russian convoys getting stuck and then taken out? Is it mandatory for them? Is it part of their doctrine? And the answer is yes, it does appear to be.
Because when you try and drive through that sort of mud, because you're an orc and you don't know any different, and you don't think, oh, my truck will get stuck. And if it gets struck, then it'll be a target. Well, yeah, so that's what they did. They chased it into this valley full of lovely great potholes, which they all sunk into because they're heavy goods vehicles. And then they just set them all alight and then watched the fireworks, which was quite funny, really. Haha, stupid orcs.
Now, there's been so much going on, but there is something that I really need to mention because this just absolutely made me so happy. That ground drones, they're doing it.
Yes.
They're literally raiding all by themselves at this point. Last week, Ukrainian forces conducted a completely unmanned amphibious landing on the Kimburn Spit. Now, this is just a test, obviously, but one sneaky little, sea drone carried a ground drone with a gun and just popped it onto the shore there. Popped it onto the shore at the Kimburn Spit. And the Ukrainian drone landing craft dropped it off, this UGV, and it went on its merry way, attacking Russian positions along the beach. Now, I assume it didn't last forever and it's probably been taken out now, but the whole point is that it did it. And I'm just going to say it's only a matter of time, isn't it, before Ukraine just, we seem to have just deployed 20 of these all at once, you know? This is the first unmanned amphibious assault in history. And it also proves to the Russians that they can't even hold a beach where they've been for years. I mean, the Navy that doesn't exist has just outmaneuvered them yet again. I don't know if you've noticed, but, you know, the amount of people that tagged me in this, they were like, ground drone, you love these. And I was like, yes, you're absolutely right. I do love these. And they are absolutely just rewriting the book. the Droid army is becoming a reality. And Ukraine are absolutely revolutionizing the idea of modern warfare. Beautiful, beautiful. Who needs a beach party when you can send a robot squad? Just amazing, amazing. So that made me so happy, so happy. I put it in my bookmarks twice, just because I did. Now, there was a meeting yesterday, and this meeting appears to have actually borne some fruit. And one of the things that they didn't do was say, oh, Ukraine, you must negotiate. Please tell us when you're going to start negotiating. They didn't do any of that bullshit. So I'm really glad about that. So this was a meeting of the Coalition of the Willing, whatever they want to call themselves these days, which apparently now is up to 40 members because Moldova and who else was it? Another little smaller country, shall we say, also joined. I'll find it in a second and I'll tell you. So Moldova and North Macedonia, there we go. They've also joined the Coalition of the Willing, bringing the number of participating countries up to 40. And we seem to have gone back to Coalition of the Willing rather than Coalition of the Determined or Coalition of the whatever we pulled out of our book this week. So, they're sticking with that one. PR's decided. Just does make me a little bit like cynical. I'm like, but please just stop with the renaming process and just get on with the work. And it appears that they have got on with the work. So that's nice. They are setting up an anti-ballistic coalition. Yes, another one. Yeah, another group. But this is really important. And Zelensky himself says the following. Strong and sufficient anti-ballistic capabilities are essential to bringing Russia's war against Ukraine to an end. Because remember, if Russia can, they will. And if they can destroy and if they can terrorize, they will continue to do so. So, this is no less important than the deep and mid-range strikes against Russia's war economy or active operations on the front lines. The more means Ukraine has to shoot down Russian ballistics, the greater the chance that Putin will be forced to come to the negotiating table, as his last argument in this war will no longer be working. Because that's basically it. That's what they got now. They got ballistic missiles and nuclear threats. And that nuclear threats one, it's kind of not working on us anymore, is it? So, they're just throwing ballistic missiles and trying their best to be evil. And if none of those were landing, if none of that was causing any real destruction or, terror like they want it to, it would be a point of further embarrassment for the Russians. And they would just be throwing up ballistics for no good reason, getting no results whatsoever. I mean, as far as they're concerned, a destroyed apartment block is a good result. So, we need to stop them from being able to have any results. So anyway, Emmanuel Macron hosted this meeting of the European Anti-Ballistic Coalition. Obviously the first one, because we're just on this now. And remember, Ukraine has their own anti-ballistic proposition, the Freya. And we'll talk about that in a minute. So, in fact, he mentions it here. He says, he's also grateful to the NSAs and the CEOs of our defence companies who have come here today to work on our joint system, the Freya. It is not intended to replace existing systems, but another way to supplement our defence, create a strong shield over the entirety of Europe, and do all of this faster and at a lower cost, because them Patriots are fucking expensive. Did you spot that? They're really expensive. And he does say it's not intended to replace other systems. He's saying that just to be polite. Sooner or later, they will be replacing other systems, just so you know. So, allies are preparing new measures to strengthen Ukraine's missile defence. This was also reported. The meeting in Paris will discuss additional Patriot interceptors accelerated deployment of SAM-T systems, and a new European defence project with Ukrainian participation, which is the Freya. They also expected to discuss security guarantees against the Shadow Fleet and extend some joint weapons production. And, well, how did that go? That went quite well, actually. Let me find it. Macron said Ukraine plans to acquire a further 16 Rafale jets, and SAM-T air defence systems will also be coming. Now, one of the things they did say about these Rafales were that they were going to be purchased and they were going to be in Ukraine in 2028, 2029. Now, this is lovely if they can secure these and make sure that these purchases go through, but it would be nice to have them a bit sooner, wouldn't it? However, SAM-T NG, these are the new generation. That's what NG is, I think.
No, it is. It's the next generation, which is already being tested in Ukraine. People got to say. So they've had the system for a little while now. Italy gave it to them a little while ago, and they said, "Well, he got it. Could you do some battleground testing on it?" And they went, "Yeah, fine." And guess what? It works rather well. So yes, it is that. Absolutely. Sorry, Mockers, crack on.
It's all right. It just reminded me of, what is it? Star Trek, The Next Gen.
Oh dear.
I know, I'm sorry. I can't help it. My brain does these things. So, who is in this anti-ballistic coalition? Ooh. Well, it's Ukraine, Denmark, France, Germany, Italy, the Netherlands, Norway, Spain, Sweden, and the UK. Which is quite a few good friends, isn't it? All these people, usually pretty reliable, shall we say, in this sort of thing. Maybe not in some other things. France, Germany. I'm just saying. Sorry. And, well, we are going to apparently all come together and unite our air defence research and production capabilities to jointly develop air defence systems that will protect us against ballistic missiles, as all of us, but especially Ukraine. And Ukraine will be doing, I would say, 99.9% of all battlefield testing. So the source is also the document itself is quite important. So it's provided here, statement of the co-chairs of the Coalition of the Willing, and it's very wordy, and I'm not reading through it, but I will retweet it for you guys to have a read through or put it in the nest or whatever. So there's that. Now, separately, the UK decided, and EU countries, have officially held 16 FSB centres in Russia responsible for attempted sabotage operations against Poland and their power grids. There's been a whole bunch of sanctions, in fact. The EU in conjunction with the UK, or the UK in conjunction with the EU, I don't know. We have to say it separately like that because of that Brexit bullshit. But we've imposed 24 new sanctions against individuals and organisations that serve as proxy networks for Russian intelligence services and are responsible for cyber attacks, election interference, and the spread of anti-Ukrainian narratives in Europe. Did you see that Polish guy that was arrested specifically for anti-Ukrainian rhetoric, and he had something like thousands of accounts where he was constantly pumping out this nonsense?
I did, Mockers. I did. Poor little love. He deserves everything he gets. So just going back to the anti-ballistic stuff. So one of the things they came away with was the right to they're allowed to build Astra rockets. Sorry,
I've not got to that bit yet, but yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I'll shut up.
Oh, it's all right. It's all right, darling. You're allowed to break the news. Carry on. You carry on.
I don't know. So they're allowed to build the Astra rockets for the SAM-Ts, and also France has given them permission to build Scalp. Now, people don't go thinking that they're actually going to build them. They got permission to build them. So now it'll be up for Ukraine to decide whether A, it's too expensive to build, or they want to build a substitute. So, but it's already really good news. So, but yeah. So no arguments about end use certificates and all that malarkey. They're given their permission. The Europeans straight away, unlike other people around the world that seem to be tied up with other sort of bullshit. But yeah, there you go.
I thank you, my darling. So, yes, these sanctions that I'm just about to harp on about, because they came to me first, basically, they target high-ranking GRU officials, one of which is Vyacheslav Staviv, Ivan Senin, and Ivan Kasienko, possibly. They're all involved in cyber and hybrid operations against Western countries. And I just wanted to comment on that guy who got arrested in Poland, because he looks like every other one of them, doesn't he? He's just some sort of like unimpressive individual, just some balding guy with glasses who just looks like he spends too much time online. And he does spend too much time online. Anyway, Rybar, its director, Mikhail Zvinchuk, and 9 other project participants are also sanctioned for interfering in elections in various countries and spreading anti-Ukrainian narratives. Now, what I feel is, this interfering in elections, we should be able to go to these pro-Russian candidates and say, obviously you work with Russia to destabilize our country. Get the fuck out. Like these reform idiots and Farage and Le Pen and all of them, we should just be able to put them in a boat and say, fuck off. We don't want you. But apparently that's seen as being intolerant. I'm very intolerant these days. Stick them all in a boat and tell them to fuck off somewhere else. Go suck some Russian dicks, as far as I'm concerned. Go. They shouldn't even be allowed in our politics at this point. And I know that seems like, there's laws and shit against that sort of action, but tough shit. If you work against your country for a foreign actor under foreign influence, funded by foreign money, we should just be able to throw you out. And I feel as though, we need to be less tolerant of these dickheads. We really do. Anyway, where was I? Sanctions were also imposed on individuals behind something called the Lummerstele, which allows cybercriminals to collect confidential information from compromised devices and transmit it directly to Russia. Dirty dealings. A large-scale cyber attack last winter happened in Poland and was intended to leave more than 500,000 citizens without electricity to further sow chaos in the country. I can't promise anything. I'll just say that. Thank you, Prince, for that message. So, obviously, key logistics hub, key transportation route for Ukraine. And we have seen all the ways that Poland is being attacked in general. And, well, we see right now as well a whole bunch of apparently just grassroots, organic groups popping up wearing quite creepy looking uniforms and not only asking for the black and red Ukrainian flag, which I'll tell you now is nothing to do with being Nazi. It's everything to do with if you dip a Ukrainian flag in blood, it goes red and black. And that is the reason why they use that flag, because they have been murdered for so long. And there is no shame in wearing that flag. It is purely to do with the centuries of blood that their flags have been steeped in by other nations murdering them, mainly Russia or, Soviet Union, those bastards. Look, there's a lot of history around there, which none of it is very savoury, but everybody was trying to fight for their own causes and their freedoms and stuff. And some of them were shitheads. And, it's history. And we can write it down in our history books and we can say, you know what, we have learned from this and this is not who we are anymore. And if you want to live in the past, take a time machine and fuck off back there, you know? And don't bring that shit into the current day because we live in a completely different world. And of course, this is what Russia does. They like to stoke up old anger, even anger about stuff that never even fucking happened, you know? Just the bullshit. But this particular group that are going around in their uniforms, they're also suggesting that the trizube, you know, Ukraine's national symbol, is also offensive to the Polish because they're just trying to, you know, stir up hate any way they can. And I don't know, I just feel as though these people should be taken off the streets and slapped a lot. And I'm not really, you know, well, no, I am actually kind of a quietly violent person, but I'm not into advocating for violence on a grand scale or anything, but slap the shit out of those people, as far as I'm concerned. It's a bit like when Tommy Ten Names and his good friend, you know, the Russians, tried to organise some sort of hate rally in the UK. And a couple of these rallies popped up and hundreds and hundreds of people who were against these rallies also went out and stood in the streets and went, we outnumber you about 10 to 1. Now piss off home before the police have to protect you. And that's what happened. And I think, you know, that's what we need to encourage more of that. Get out and tell them to their faces what a bunch of fucking idiots they are. Because it's the only way, really. When they see so many people, you know, when they turn up somewhere to cause trouble and, like, you know, spread their hatred, and there's hundreds and hundreds of people stood there going, no, you don't. Go home. And the police have to literally escort them out of the area for their own safety. That, more of that sort of thing. That's what I'm advocating for. Now, where were we? Oh, yes. So there is more things coming out of this meeting. So this anti-ballistic coalition, Zelensky has basically framed it in this way. Right now in Ukraine, the situation is such that we don't have any missiles to shoot down ballistics. And this is a fact. Because, you know, some fuckers wasted them over in the Middle East when they were told quite clearly that that was not the way to use them. They did it anyway because, you know, it was almost as though they enjoyed shitting themselves. I don't know. So this is why we've had to launch a new anti-ballistic program because, you know, some dickhead wasted a load of stuff that we told him don't waste that, and they did it anyway. So this Freya system is going to start coming into its own, and it looks as though actually the missile component of the Freya system is now ready. Because this was one of the things that was holding them back. I think it's the FP7, is it? That they originally built this missile as an offensive missile, and then they were like, actually, this should be used for a defensive missile in our air defense system because it's the better choice. Now, people have said, oh, well, you know, whether it's going to do as good a job as the Patriot PAC-3 missile. If you stand one of these Patriot PAC-3 missiles and the new Freya missile next to one another, goodness gracious me, they do look very similar, you know. They could be twins. They really could be twins. Thank you. I'm glad you're proud of me. So I'm just pointing that out. They could be twins. So he goes on to say, together we can build this new air defense system within 12 months. We have different air defense components and we will build a European anti-ballistic system. You know, because the Patriots are you're constantly fucking about. There's no such thing as half pregnant. And it's always like, yes, you can, no, you can't. We've got some, no, we haven't. You know, it constantly messing about. And that gets a little bit tedious when you're dying. So, you know, it kind of brings the point home that you need to do something else. So Ukraine can provide new, cheaper, mass-produced ballistic missiles for the Freya. as part of this system, because to shoot down a ballistic missile, you need a ballistic missile, basically. They need to be able to fly at the same sort of speed. And if you ain't got something which can match the speed of a ballistic missile, then you ain't shooting them down. So this is important. And the representatives of all the European countries who were going to be involved were there. Everyone who manufactures critical components for defence systems. So he mentioned them all. So there's Firepoint, obviously. There's Thales. Thales, is that how you say it? I always want to call them Thales, but that's not how you say it at all. DL Defence, Saab, Kongsberg Defence and Aerospace, Vibel, Leonardo, CNR, MBDA, Eurosam, Safran, Destinus, and a few others which he didn't mention. And it just goes to show, you know, how many defence firms want to be involved in this. They're like, oh yes, please. We would definitely like to be able to build these things and sell them. Yes. Alternative to Patriot. Yes, please. We'd like some of that. We could sell that all over the fucking world. So, you see, there's one thing about Patriot. It was produced mainly during peacetime. And yes, it's very effective, but it's also, everything is like gold-plated on it. Not literally, but, you know, everything costs extra money because nobody thinks about keeping the costs down during peacetime. And in fact, if you can make it more expensive, that's even better. It's even better because, you know, we can make some more money off that. We mark it up a little bit further. And that's all very well and good. But if you ain't got enough to do the job, then somebody else is going to come in and fill that gap. Unlucky. So he says we have important details, very important components. We have the missiles in Ukraine, but that is only part of the system. So it does look as though these FP7 Freya missiles are indeed now ready. Together, we will build the system over the next 12 months. It preferably should be built at scale. We can build Freya, and that will help cover the deficit. It will also be affordable because, you know, that's really important these days. And it will allow all of Europe over time to secure itself with new air defences and provide those in the world who need protection with sufficient quantities of air defence. Big old dig at the Patriots there. This is a historic day for all of us, and I am confident in this. That is tasty, tasty, tasty. It's exactly the kind of project that proves Ukraine is not a charity case. They're a defence partner. They can provide cheaper, mass-produced anti-ballistics ready in 12 months. European companies have the components, and Ukraine has the missile and the combat data. It's a match made in heaven, isn't it? Beautiful. And they need to start preparing for the winter, unfortunately. It may be boiling at the moment, and I may be dying overnight because I can't deal. I'm not made for warm weather. I'm really not. I'm only made for temperate climates. In fact, I would happily take some rain right now. But anyway, one of the things which was horrendous was last winter in Ukraine. It was absolutely dreadful for anybody who was, you know, under attack in Ukraine, which was most people in Ukraine. So the planning has to start now. And Zelensky also stated they're doing everything they can to push Russia towards diplomacy. What he actually means is we're doing everything we can to push Russia onto their fucking knees so they will come to us and say, please stop hitting us. You know, instead of going to America.
Surrender.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of going to America and saying, America, please tell Ukraine to stop hitting us. No, Peskov, we're too busy smacking the shit out of you. We can't hear those, please. You've got to come to us directly and ask us very, very nicely. And also piss off out of our land while you're doing it. When that happens, then we'll consider it. You know, that's where Ukraine is now. Lovely. So they're already having a very difficult summer, but they have made this the most difficult summer for Russia yet. Oh, haven't they? Long-range operations and mid-range strikes will continue, and we will strengthen them. And one of the main ways to strengthen our overall position will be a winter package of air defense missiles. If we have protection for the winter, Russia will have far less reason to drag this war further. We have calculated that we require 100 Patriot missiles per month and 300 missiles for the winter. Please consider this. I mean, this is responsible leadership, but also pragmatic planning, isn't it? He knows that Russia is going to continue to attack them at as great a rate as they can manage. And they're going to use as many ballistics as they can manage as well, because, you know, we're still supplying them with the means to be able to build ballistic missiles. You know, Europe in general, still supplying them because we're fucking stupid and we prefer money to seeing Ukrainians live, apparently. And so, you know, this is an important one, very. Now, there is another part to this, that in the meantime, it would appear that Trump has reached an agreement on licenses to produce Patriots. Now, Zelensky says produce Patriot systems, not just missiles, systems. Our teams are now working to implement this truly historic political agreement. We have worked towards this for a very long time. Now, I really hope this comes to pass. I really do, but I'm very cynical of that orange turd. Very cynical. I know what's going to happen. Right at the last minute, he's going to say, I'll only sign this if you pass the Save Act, you know, which basically disenfranchises half the voters in the US. Basically means that a whole bunch of people won't be able to vote. Because, you know, if you're loved by your people and if you're doing everything right and, you know, you expect to win the next election, you don't need to cheat. So you can absolutely see where his, you know, priorities are. But I have a funny feeling that he's going to do this. We'll only do that if we can get my voter suppression bill passed. Because every time they've tried to get anything else passed recently, he's done this. And I'm such a fucking cynic that I expect him to do the same. And then nothing will pass. And he'll sit there like the big orange turd that he is, just in the fucking way. I'm just saying that, you know, if anybody should be having a heart attack, somebody who eats so much shit should be having one. I don't generally wish people harm in general, apart from Russians at this point. But I don't know, that guy, just, what is he good for other than pissing everybody off at the minute?
He definitely makes it onto the list, Mockers, doesn't he?
Well, yeah.
The list that you should never have.
Yeah.
So can you see hands? That's the
I
other
can
thing.
see Jenny has her hand up now. I've looked, yeah.
No, that's fine. Okay, crack on. Sorry, just needed to know.
That's okay. Go ahead, Jenny, and then I will do the numbers. She may be walking her
I
dog
decided
or something. There she is. There she is.
no,
I was,
no, but I was waiting. I was like, oh no, I have time to brush my teeth. And then you're like, Penny, go ahead. And I'm like, oh, would you look at that? So now you know I do oral hygiene. It's important. Um, I think that traders should be required to move to the country that they sold out their actual country to. So choose wisely when you decide to be a trader, because Russia is not really that nice, nor is China, North Korea, or Iran. So fuck all those guys. Uh, or, you know, I used to be really opposed to the death penalty, but it turns out that I can change my mind. Traitors and pedophiles should get the death penalty once it's proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that they actually did what we're accusing them of. Then kill them. We force people to put down their dogs when they bite children because they have harmed a child and traumatized them. Why don't we do the same with pedophiles? Traitors, I have nothing but hatred, despise, and disgust for those. And yeah, and trust me, nobody has one night of Farage. He's an ugly bastard. And Turns out that shit sticks straight to the soul. So fuck that guy too. Um. So yeah, we no sane person want those traders either. They should be required. They could actually get the choice between the death penalty or forcibly transferred to the country that they sold out your nation to. Anyways, because fuck Russia and fuck traders. Thank you.
Absolutely that. Absolutely. Right there with you. So let's do some numbers, and then I will carry on with my news, because there's lots of news today, and some of these things that I'm keeping in my back pocket a little bit amusing. So we'll do a bit of that too. So I'm just making a cuppa. You might not have noticed the kettle boiling there very loudly in the background. So numbers, my love, numbers. Where is it? There it is. One. Oh, no, let's do the date first. It's the 14th of July. Yay! I get paid tomorrow. That's even better. You know what I'm doing tomorrow when I get paid? I'm going to set up a recurring payment to War Doggo and his proactive, fundraiser there. And I think that's a really good thing to do for anybody who's about to get paid mid-month. Feel free to follow my fine example. That's what I'm going to do, because I can finally afford it now that I've finally paid off my credit cards. So here we go. We have 1,120 liquidated personnel. A little bit down on yesterday, but still hovering around that average, eh? I wonder if yesterday was yesterday was a special case. The Russians tried a few things and got themselves absolutely smacked. So we also have 6 tanks and 1 armoured combat vehicle. It's not often you see anybody using tanks on the battlefield these days, but Ukraine keep finding these things parked up, inside warehouses and stuff, and they're like, yeah, you're not having that. So they keep just ensuring that the Russians can't use them. We have another 46 artillery systems, 2 MLRS, and 2 more air defence systems, because why not? More the merrier. I think one of those was in the Kerch area. We also have, sorry, just sorting this out. There we go. 330 of the vehicles and fuel tanks. These fluctuate up and down a bit, but they had a particularly big bumper crop yesterday. So today, maybe the Russians just weren't as keen to lose as many. Goodness gracious me, the cat just up and scared the shit out of me. So, perhaps there hasn't been as many people diving down that road of death to die over the last 24 hours. Yes, little child. Yes, you are beautiful. We have 4 more special equipment, and, I don't care what they are, as long as Russia finds it difficult to replace them, whatever it is. And then we have the air stuff. So 3 cruise missiles were shot down. Just so you know, that's 4,899 successfully shot down or suppressed in total. We have 1,508 UAVs, operational tactical UAVs, and I've been told that the only time we see lower numbers of these is when the weather is not conducive for them to all be deployed like usual. So, Russia has them. It's just that sometimes the weather dictates how many they can and can't use. And that's a shame, really. So, maybe Mother Nature can just summon up a few tornadoes for the Russians, a few more ones. And 11 ground robotic complexes. So, good, because, Russia doesn't deserve to have those things. So what have we got with the overnight report? Well, of course, I told you if they can, they will, and there be missiles, So let's have a look. We have 145 items in total, and that's made up of the following. 8 Iskander-M S-400 ballistic missiles from the Brin region. 2 KH-5969 guided aircraft missiles. Launched from Crimea, and 135 Shahed type or strike UAVs, including jet UAVs and all the other different types. The air attack was, of course, repelled by both aviation, electronic warfare, and anti-aircraft missile troops, and unmanned systems units, and mobile fire groups. Now, remember how Ukraine was given some PAC-3 missiles just recently and told to use them wisely because that's all we got? Well, they used them. They used them wisely. According to preliminary data, as of 9 a.m., so that was an hour ago, Air Defence shot down and suppressed 5 Iskander MS-400 ballistic missiles. So those PAC-3 missiles that were handed to Ukraine are probably now used up, but they were used wisely to protect lives, and that is the importance of them. That is why they are so absolutely necessary. And that's why we need to develop another system that can do the same thing without having to rely on slow, expensive supply that sometimes just doesn't come. Because that's not just disappointing, it's signing the death warrants of, regular civilians. So 5 Iskanders / ballistic missiles, 2 KH-5969, which, Ukraine are very good at shooting down these aircraft missiles now. It's not guaranteed, but they're very good at doing it. And they got them both. And, and out of the 135 drones, they shot down or suppressed 108. Now, remember, not every one of these drones carries a warhead, but most of them will probably cause damage. 1 ballistic missile was recorded hitting and 25 strike UAVs at 17 locations, as well as debris falling at 10 locations. Now, remember how we said there was 8 ballistic missiles, 5 have been shot down, 1's been accounted for with hitting a location, 2 haven't been accounted for. And it says here, these 2 ballistic missile locations are being clarified, which, well, I'm wondering if their Lima system is now getting better, because this is usually what happens when the Ukrainian Lima system has interfered with the missile brains. Or perhaps they just didn't work so well, because, we understand that Russian build quality can sometimes be a little bit shit. So, one way or another, 2 further missiles didn't reach their targets, which means that 7 out of 8 were not successful. Only 1 out of 8 was actually successful. And that is a very successful night of air defence. That is an excellent result considering the situation. So, there are still UAVs in the airspace. Please continue to follow the air defence, situation. Bloke, good morning again. Good to see you.
I should be in bed, but I can't tell you the number of times I have actually gone to bed and been lulled to sleep by the boom report and just listening to Russians get blown up. And that, is a good thing to sleep to. But I did want to point out that I think one of the sleepers of the war is going to be the licensing. So being able to license, I don't know if I've posted this, but French, American, and so far it's just the French and Americans are really helping to license their technology to Ukraine. Ukraine has already demonstrated an incredible capacity to innovate and manufacture, and I think these things will tip the balance. So I'm very excited about that. Ukraine being able to manufacture under license Patriots, and if you look at my timeline, a number of French munitions, and with that together, I think that Ukraine will eventually be able to defend their airspace. And I mean, at this point, I think Russia is just so fucked. Anyway, uh, let's not call it a done deal. But I mean, you and me, mockers, we already knew that the Russians were going to lose the war. It was just a matter of, how many people the assholes could kill. And that's partly, it's tragic a bit that we haven't stepped up in the West as much as we should have. But the licensing to Ukraine to build their own ballistic missile defense, I think, is one of the sleepers of this war as well. As we've discussed yesterday, the sleeper was going after Russian munitions. All of this together is going to help Ukraine, and I'm looking forward to that because Ukrainians will be able to manufacture what they need to in order to win the war. Anyway, I should be sleeping now, but you know what? Um, you'll just lull me to sleep by telling me how much shit the Ukrainians have blown up in Russia, and that'll make me sleep like a baby. So thank you for doing this.
No problem, bloke. I can't think of any other way to live my life than, supporting Ukraine. Prince?
Lots of men like to sleep with Ockers, bloke. Good to see you, honey. Hugs.
Prince, if you're talking, I can't hear you.
Firefella, did you hear what I said?
Firefella?
Yes, Mockers. She says lots of fellas want to sleep with you. I don't know what she's talking about.
What matters is this bloke
Gosh.
heard me.
Well, indeed. I seem to have lost Prince, and I'm sorry, I can't recycle because it will mean me having to reinstall the entire fucking thing. So,
No, Prince is recycling.
okie doke. Well, hopefully that will help. So, there is a little bit more about this Patriot System Agreement that Zelensky's been working towards, but he also hedges with this. We always stress one thing. The more diverse our defence is, the harder it is for enemies to undermine the security in Europe. And that is a very good point, isn't it? Because Patriots are all very well and good, but if everybody's using them and they're a finite resource, we're all in fucking trouble. And we got to diversify. It's a bit like, oil and gas, right? If we're all flipping attached to the teat of Russian oil and gas, then, they can use that as a lever to blackmail us with, and have tried, and have done so in some cases. Diversifying is really important. And it turns out that green energy, in some cases, is very useful and has actually been able to provide a lot more energy than, indeed, thank you, darling, a lot more energy than we originally thought it could, because, there was all sorts of propaganda against it. And if we actually just invest and, have faith, we found that these things actually work quite well. And in Europe, there is actually renewable sources are starting to provide just over 50% of our needs now in some countries. Can't say that's everyone, but in some countries. And it shows that we can if we really want to. And there's nothing wrong with nuclear energy either, other than, having a place to store the eventual what do you call it, waste, which is a very small amount, to be fair. If you can successfully do that, store the waste product as and when it's necessary, in a secure enough location, then nuclear energy is actually really viable. And there is even nuclear energy plants now that run on that waste. So, that there is always a way for us to not have to be trapped in this energy trap that Russia likes to think we should be in. And it's the same with air defences. There is a way to not be stuck in the trap of everybody needs Patriots and everybody needs them all at once and there's not enough. Actually, Patriots, yes, they're brilliant, but SAMP-T, the IRIS-T, the NASAMS, and of course now the Freya project are all coming into their own. And air defences, it's like the layers of an onion. You can't just have one type. You've got to have a whole layer of air defence, all at different heights, all at different speeds, all at different, sizes, shall we say, in order to be able to secure your skies. And so everything from the humble guy riding on a technical shooting to the big old lumbering Patriot system and everything in between. And that's why it's really important to develop all of these systems, not just one.
Yeah,
So,
and
oh,
Mockers,
go on.
like, but the thing is, the French will give licensing for guided bombs, scalp, and
After,
Aster surface to defense missiles. So and Patriots. And have you noticed the GCC countries are going to be buying Ukrainian drones? So just altogether, Ukraine is winning the respect and business of the world in terms of air defense, right? And I think this is underestimated. I think that Ukraine will be able to defend their skies within 6 months to 1 year, and I think it's going to be absolutely brilliant. And then, of course, they will roll over the Russians and kick them out of their country, as we've all been hoping for. So I just think the licensing is really important. Um, and also vice versa. I think, the rest of the world recognizing that Ukraine is the world leader in drone warfare. The British and Canadians will be have set up a base in near Cold Lake to be training just on Ukrainian technology and drone warfare. So I think this is great stuff, and I just it should have been over a lot earlier. We've all been through that. Let's get over it. That's the past. But we've all been through that, Mockers. You and I remember, like, getting so frustrated with the slowness of the West. But at the end of the day, Ukraine will win. We all knew that, and I'm looking forward to going to sleep and listening to you tell me what the Ukrainians have blown up in Russia. And that will put me to sleep and give me sweet dreams. So I just want to thank you guys for hosting the space, and I'll drop down now. But thanks.
well, thank you very much, bloke. But you're going to have to rewind to the beginning of the space where I did tell you everything that's been blown up in Russia in a long list. So there you go. You'll have to go back a little bit to sort that out for yourself. Right. So yeah, the last bit that I was going to say is Zelensky also stated he believes that Europe can provide themselves with enough protection against ballistic threats and become a strong contributor to global security. You see, here's the thing. When, when one country who's been providing everybody with security steps away from the mic, everybody else has to step up. And they are doing, thankfully. Finally, we're finding that, we can actually do things for ourselves. And it's been very nice for us to rely on a, big brother to come in and beat everyone up for us. But it's not the case anymore. And so we are all going to become competitors in this arms race. And, well, you know, the more diversity, the more competition, the cheaper and more successful you will find development to be. The, the amount of doomers. What if Russia gets hold of the technology? I'm telling you now, Russia already has the technology on paper. They can't fucking build it, though. Do stop dooming. So, Fedorov, who is currently staying in his job, and folks all over the world, please provide this man with some support, because he's been sort of like targeted recently by some unscrupulous MFers, and they're trying to get Zelensky to sack him, or at least put him in a different position. And I'll tell you exactly why. Because Fedorov has come in and said, no more fucking corruption, no more backhanders, no more giving contracts to your friends, no more overcharging the government. And we've seen recently, actually, one of the main drone suppliers for the armed forces of Ukraine has been caught out massively overcharging. And, you know, that's embarrassing for some of the people that are involved in that. And as a result of him being so very honest and unable to be corrupted, they want him out of a job because they're out of pocket. And this does refer to a couple of people that he works directly with in the government, I believe, that they, you know, they've always got along with a small amount of corruption that lines their back pockets, and none of that will be happening anymore, and they're going to have to get used to it. But in the meantime, they thought they could push Fedorov out of his job, and the massive amount of public backlash has changed their position, shall we say, or is at least holding off their position. So, yeah, whoever you are, wherever you are, if you support Fedorov, do so loudly at this time, because he's the future. And I know they're trying to push that he doesn't get along with Sersky. All that is the old school and the new school need to find better ways to work together. It's not that they don't, you know, don't work together at all. It's that sometimes you've got to find a way for you to communicate better, because one of them is in the future and the other guy is in the past. And, you know, you got to kind of drag both of you to the present to make things work. Or, you know, if Sersky really can't get along with him, I know who I'd choose. I'll just put it that way. So, Fedorov has come out in all his honest glory and said the following with regards to arms exports. The MOD have opened new conditions for defence companies. You can only sell to partner states of the drone deal programme. This is something else that, you know, some unscrupulous fucks have been trying to sell to people who they haven't made agreements with. And that's all stopping too. And this is another reason why certain people don't like him, because they were going to make a bit of money on the side and now they're not. You know, it's all about money. The application review period, however, has been reduced from 90 to 30 days. So he's saying, look, if you want to do business with us, just go through the right channels and we won't make it difficult for you. You don't have to wait 3 months, 1 month. We'll get it sorted. You know, if you really need to do business with us that quickly, we've reduced the time period for you to wait. So don't be fucking around doing backroom deals. The admission conditions. The minimum contract value is 15 million hryvnias. Because if you're not buying in bulk, piss off. We're not interested. Buy in bulk or don't. Simple. Because we need the investment. So, you know, if you're not here to invest, you're just here to play around, well, we ain't messing with you. Priority always remains the needs of the Ukrainian Defence Forces, and if weapons are in short supply at the front, you won't get permission, basically. So he's basically saying, yeah, we're also not selling to you if we need the stuff, because we ain't going to go without in order to sell stuff, because that would be very silly. You know, it's a bit like Russia selling off their oil refined products while having none at home. That's a bit silly, but they desperately need the money, you see. Whereas Ukraine's saying, even if we desperately need the money, we need the munitions more, and that's what we'll choose. A financial model. Payment for export permit is now tied to the contract amount. It's not fixed. The company must pay 20% of the cost of the finished product and 30% of the components. And that's how you do things. There's a big deposit, and if you can't pay the big deposit, stop wasting our time. The first deal, the F drones. I feel as though these drones have a little picture on them with the middle finger. FU drones. F drones were the first to receive an export permit under the new mechanism. The F-10 FPV drone will be supplied to the US as part of the Drone Dominance Program competition. The first batch of 2,000 drones will be delivered to the US military by the end of July. So there you go. He's saying, do business at scale or don't waste our time. The industry position. Defence advocates recognise faster tracks as a positive step, but criticise the high rates and lack of consultation with the industry. The 30% rate on components, according to market participants, effectively closes access to some European markets because they can't afford it. You know, the smaller countries, unfortunately, won't be able to afford these right now, and they will have to wait. But that is that. Business is business, and I'm afraid, you can't. If you need money for the components to be able to build the stuff in the first place, that's what you have to do. Harsh but fair, I feel. He's basically saying, don't mess us around. We're busy, and we are busy. So, the EU failed to agree on the 21st package of sanctions initially because some dirty, dirty, dirty people in the Bulgarian government who are obviously being paid by Russia because, I'm not mincing my words anymore. They're being paid by Russia to get in the fucking way of progress. And in this case, they forced the sanctions package to remove the names of Patriarch Kirill, again, that murderous FSB member disguised as a whatever, disguised as a what do you call it? A man of the cloth, and the Lukoil founder, Vajit. Anyway, jokes. Vajit Alexperov were removed from the draft of the sanctions. This is just fucking shameful. Patriarch Kirill is a Moscow puppet, always has been, works for the security services. Why does Bulgaria care so much about these specific individuals unless they're taking money to get in the way of the sanctions on these particular people? So I'd love somebody to look into that a bit further. Investigative Journalists Unite. So the package does contain another 250 points aimed at increasing pressure on Russia, but some countries have demanded the exclusion of particular restrictions. In one case, in particular, on the supply of Russian fish. Now, I just want to say, I don't know if you're aware, but Russia don't care about pollution. They really don't fucking care. Have you seen what they've done to their country? Which is why they keep invading everybody else's countries, because they can't be asked cleaning up after themselves. And you still want to buy their fish? I'm against poisoning myself with other people's stuff, But apparently this is a thing. However, the parties are close to achieving a compromise, but supply of Russian fish, what kind of fucking nonsense is that? Do we see how bad this makes us look? That we're choosing fish over Ukrainian children's lives. I'm just sorry. Whoever said that to me, if I were in the room at the time, I wouldn't be able to keep myself from running over the other side of the room, wherever they were, and giving them a good slap and saying, what the fuck are you talking about? Where is your moral clarity? Yes. Fishy indeed. So,
Absolutely, Mockers. Well, we found out who the new proxy for Russia now is. Hungary has been sorted out, isn't it? And it's the Bulgarians. Bless their cotton socks. Vile little shits. And just a word on Fedorov. Fedorov has absolutely transformed the Ukrainian MOD, and there's a culture change going on, and he's upset some people. So now the political backlash from Russian oiks is to try and get rid of him, and we're just not having it, people. So wherever you see anything about Mr. Fedorov, please support the fella, give him some love, because he's doing an absolutely superb job. I mean, transformational, out of this world. And he's not to be bought. So the Russians are going to the thing that they can do, trying to get rid of him. And it ain't going to work.
it's not
So
just the
stick with
Russian
it.
fire fella. It's a whole bunch
No.
of people in the government who have also, benefited from backhanders, shall we say, in the past.
No, absolutely, sweet. I agree with you. So he's shut down their money train, hasn't he? And they're not happy with him. So, yeah, which will open the way for Russia to stick its two penneth worth in. Yeah, but just back the man. He's doing an absolutely brilliant job. Changing the culture like we spoke about months ago. Brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, much as I love Ukrainians, that in some cases they have been tainted very badly with corruption, Russian corruption mainly. But you can't say it's entirely the Russians, unfortunately. In this case, this is other members of the current government who have opinions because they used to make quite a bit of money off under the table deals, and it's a shame it is. And I'm just saying, if you're going to do a cabinet reshuffle, you want to get rid of them MFers, not the people who are actually working really, really hard for the country. So yeah, let's not make any mistakes at this point. So, would you like some woe at this point? Because wow,
Oh, I'm waiting for the woe mockers. What we got this morning? Your old Golroth, or whatever his name is, he's been vocal again, hasn't he? Are we talking about him?
oh, he has become
Goldman.
one of my favourite potty mouths, I must admit. So yeah, this guy is he's beside himself with just how upset he is on everything. He's absolutely, yeah. I may or may not have put him in my bookmarks. I'm not sure. Goldman. There he is. Yeah.
Goldman.
Oof.
There's a couple in the nest for you that I found, but it just makes me laugh. He doesn't hold back at all, does he? He's on it. He is giving it to them both barrels. Lovely stuff.
Well, yeah, I would expect this guy probably won't last too much longer, I'll be honest. But he's he's starting to be really honest about the current state of things in Russia, and he is not happy. So Moscow came under a heavy attack yesterday. Air defences failed to intercept everything, and in fact intercepted some stuff that they shouldn't have intercepted on the ground. Obviously, the oil refineries are being destroyed left, right, and centre. Russia can't repair them either without foreign spare parts because their domestic machine tool industry is, everything's been bought from China. And, it's just not as good. Not as good anymore. So, what's he got to say for himself? Because he is very opinionated. So, Moscow was attacked again today, and they were strongly attacked at 4 a.m. The guys are beating off from 4 such flights. Now, I think what he means is that they had to defend themselves from 4 waves of attack drones. So, all those drones that we saw, 4 waves of them went towards Moscow. I can't remember the last time there were hits like this. Well, wow. I counted 9 of them, so 9 hits after these 4 waves of attack. At least from what I've heard. Good job, guys. You fought them off, but not all of them. We can't relax, not even a little, because, believe it or not, there's a war going on. Yes, this war is now aimed at destroying the Russian reality and Russia. And he does say the Russian people, but not really. No, we just want you guys to wake the fuck up and leave your neighbours alone. But if that's what you have to, deal with, then I can understand why that would seem like destruction of your way of life. All they see here are resources, oil and gas. They, of course, want everything for themselves. Now, again, this is the Russian victim mentality, that we have something and everybody wants to take it off us. Well, no, actually, we would have quite happily done business with you and, paid good money for that stuff. But then you started invading and genociding your neighbour. And we decided we didn't like that after all, because we've seen that happen too many times before and we've let you get away with it. And now we've decided that we can't. We can't possibly justify that in the year of, year of our Lord 2022 to 2026. We've decided that's not something that we can actually put up with anymore. We're still not quite there with the full moral backbone, but we are sort of building a spine. So, but yes, we don't really want to take your oil and gas resources. We would have quite happily paid for them. Good money as well, but no, you just want to be imperialistic fascist fucks. So this is what you get. And also, how can we steal your resources when we've blown them up? Just, I've got questions. So he whines on about this and says, today their general activities, they just can't effing get enough. First and foremost, we mustn't forget our boys on the front. They're fighting for the truth so that the Russian world can survive. Mate, I don't know if you've noticed, but the Russian world is fucking horrible. None of us like it. So perhaps, you can either keep that to yourselves or if you choose not to, then no, we don't want it to survive. You're absolutely right. Fighting for the truth. Goodness gracious me, that is funny. They're destroying our refineries because they know that we don't have the spare parts that we need. Oh, shame, innit? Yeah, you're right. We need to start making our own stuff before it's too late. Oh, mate, that was a long time ago. But it's way too late. You should have been
Because
making
there's a
your
little
own.
story there.
Indeed, you should have been making their own stuff way before now. Did you want to come in with something?
Well, so yes, so with the repair stuff on the refineries, so the Kremlin's allocated all the right stuff to get Western tech in, but the local refinery managers have said, yeah, no, we're going to buy the Chinese knockoff stuff that sort of works well enough. Nobody will know the difference, and the stuff keeps breaking down. And now they're all moaning that they haven't got the right gear. Well, that's because your own managers are ripping the shit out of the system again. So what goes around comes around. Buy cheap, pays your price, don't you? What a shame.
Well, it's like buying cheap shoes. It's not a good investment in the end. Yes, you're absolutely right. So yeah, so he's basically, I mean, bless him. He is one of the few honest war bloggers left. I mean, he doesn't tell the whole truth, but you can see that he's not daft. So he says it's hard, but we should have thought about this sooner. You absolutely should have thought about this sooner. Yes, you really shot yourself in both feet, and you perhaps also shot yourself in an ankle as well. Instead of buying everything from China, we should have built these things ourselves. Our machine tools used to be very good, maybe the best in the world, maybe not the best in the world, sorry, but good. They worked. You see, that's one of the things as well about not doing business with the decadent West, is that our machine tools are really good, and Russia can hardly get hold of them anymore. And here's the thing: if you use something in industry for a long period of time, it needs upgrading or maintenance, or it will break. And guess what they've been doing? They've been using these things to the point of breakage, and then they can't replace them. I mean, so sad. Now, our machine tool industry is effed. We need to develop it, no matter how difficult it is. Yeah, with what? With what, you idiot? We needed this wake-up call to understand who we were, who we are, and what we are. Well, I can tell you what you are, but you won't like it. We need to reassess what we're doing. Now, he doesn't say this in a we need to stop the war and reassess our lives. He's saying we need to reassess what we're doing so we can murder people more efficiently. That's where he's at. The planet and those who came to this planet Earth are destroying it. I'd just like to point out what Bakhmut looks like these days. Yeah, I don't need to elaborate on that, do I? That's why all these rich bar stewards with the money live so well. Oh, well, at least he's found the right people to blame. They want to destroy the steadfast and innocent people of Russia. Oh, did you finally start blaming the elites? Well, he's certainly planting the seed, isn't he? Now, this next bit, I'm sorry, if you're drinking or eating something, you might want to just put it down in case you choke on the ridiculousness of what he's about to say. Russia is the last bastion of humanity where family and children come first. Yeah, I know. He said that. If he believes that as well, then maybe he's not as intelligent as I thought he was. He said
What, out loud?
out loud, yes.
Oh my lord.
You know, the country
Oh my lord.
that currently has an ICC warrant out for stealing other people's children. Yeah, I know. The last bastion of humanity where they literally rape anybody and everything, including your pets and your livestock, just because they can.
Whose leader is a war criminal? I think he's got a thing out for him as well, hasn't he, Putin?
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
on the list.
Putin and Lvova Belova, yeah, for stealing children, exactly. And yet they are the last bastion of family fucking values or whatever. Anyway, I read that and I was like, pardon? What colour is the sky in the world where you live? Because it certainly isn't the world that I'm living in. Anyway, after that absolute nonsense, he says, so guys, this is why we must stand to the end, because, you know, they're the moral clarity that we all need. What? Anyway, we must understand that our president has shaken everyone up so that the bear stops being a hamster. Oh, mate. Oh, I'm sorry to tell you something, but you're not a hamster. You are a bear. But you know that film where the guy skins the bear that's been hunting him the entire time? They're that bear. That bear. Yeah, so apparently that's what Putin has done. He's shaken them all up so that they're no longer hamsters and they need to strike and fight. So, of course, he's not saying anything about, you know, stopping the war here. He's basically just saying, yes, right now our empire is running on Chinese duct tape and Soviet scrap, and we need to do better so that we can murder people more better, because we are the moral harbingers of faith and humanity or something. For fuck's sake. That just, I was like, I'm sorry. I'm pardon. There is so much I could tell you today, but I think I just have to bring out, you know, the most ridiculous. So, would you like a silly story on how the Ukrainians managed to save themselves in certain areas in 2022? Because this is amazing. Russians were on their way to Odessa. And we know this. We saw them moving quite swiftly in that area. They definitely wanted to go and take Odessa. And they'd made it through Mykolaiv. And they were on the outskirts of the Odessa Oblast. And a Russian brigade was ready to attack a causeway. They were literally en route to do so. And the Ukrainian forces there, defending that causeway, there was about 15 people. And they knew they could not hold this against so many Russians coming at them. So they dispersed across the entire area and started talking on their radios about all the different Javelin teams that they were going to deploy, exactly where they were going to deploy them from and where they were going to, ambush the Russians as soon as they arrived. And the Russians heard this communication and thought, from what they were being, told on open radio, that there were around 30 or so Javelin teams in front of them that were going to oppose them if they went anywhere near the area. And they stopped. And they didn't move any further forward because they were concerned that they were going to come against a really strong defence that would have wiped them out. Do you know how many Javelin teams that group of 15 or so guys had, Firefella?
2.
None. 0. No Javelins whatsoever.
Brilliant, PSYOP. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
And that is what saved another area of Ukraine from being taken. It shows two things. It shows that the Ukrainian forces were thoroughly unprepared and unmanned at the time. But it also shows that they were savvy enough to know that the Russians are fucking idiots and that they could do something like this and actually stop the Russians from advancing just through PSYOPs. So there was another story which has come to light. One Ukrainian air defence unit found itself on the wrong side of the front lines. But of course, they all spoke Russian. So they just pretended to be Russians. They drove out of their base and actually ended up driving alongside a Russian column for a period of time. At one point, the Russian column provided them with spare tyres. And then they drove across the front line, in front of the Russians, set up, and started to engage the Russian aircraft. So there you go. There's just another little story from 2022. And this is why there will be the most incredible films and books and stories about this. There are so many of these. And there is actually a short video of a Ukrainian artillery unit sat on the side of the road as the Russians just pass by them thinking that they're one of theirs. And these Ukrainians are just sort of stood there going, so when they get far enough away, we'll just shoot them, yeah? Yeah. And that's what they did. The tyres as well, the spare tyres that were given to the Ukrainians, they didn't need them, but they asked for them because they knew that it would slow the column down if they took away some of their resources. So they were cheeky enough to ask them for spares and received them. just beautiful. So
Yeah, there's going to be, there's going to be loads of stuff like this, isn't there? I mean, the books that are going to be written after this war and stuff like this are going to come to the fore in it. And it's just going to be beautiful. Yeah. Fantastic work.
Exactly. Now, back into the present day, Ukraine has now officially unveiled a secret squadron of reusable bomber drones, modified from small civilian aircraft. So we've seen these like Foxbat type aircraft, haven't we, that have been used as like larger kamikaze type drones. But the Ukrainians have also said, you know what, we could make these reusable as bombers. We've done it with lots of other things. Why don't we? And so they did. And it just again shows their ingenuity and determination on display again, doesn't it? Ukraine are going to not just survive, but they're going to thrive. And the amount of massive development that they've made as a result of being forced into this war that they didn't choose is actually going to make them so much stronger as a country and so much more prosperous and so much more part of the modern world than they used to be. If Russia had just left them alone, but now the Ukrainian sun is rising and the Russians are being left behind. In fact, they're being beaten down onto their knees at this point. They should have just left them well alone, because they really have opened up Ukraine to the rest of the world. And prior to this, they were sort of relatively isolated, you know? I didn't even know exactly where Ukraine was until the beginning of this war. That's how much I knew about them. Yeah, I know. And look at me now. I'm going to go and see them next year, even if it means dodging bullets and, you know, hiding in air raid shelters. I'm going to fucking do it because, well, why not? And each of these modified civilian aircraft carry, well, I believe the amount of explosives that they can carry is measured in fuck tons. It's a lot of explosives, a lot more than, you know, you might get on a drone, regular drone. And I just think that's particularly lovely. So, what Russian government doing? Well, they're in some sort of panic mode at this point, and they've allocated all their efforts into trying to hide the catastrophic situation because, you know, the populace are, well, they'd prefer them to fight one another over resources rather than understand that it's the government's fault. So, you know, they don't want anyone getting pitchforky. So Putin has signed an urgent decree to classify all data related to aviation fuel. Now, you don't do that if things are going well, do you? What aviation fuel doing? It's running out. That's what it's doing. And he doesn't want people to know because they get very upset when they can't go and visit their dachas or, you know, fly to Europe. They're doing some building work next door. And every time he runs the drill, I think there's a cat growling because, you know, it's just that sort of noise put through the wall. So regular Russians are not going to be able to fly soon. Not to most places, you know. In fact, regular Russians are going to be left behind while the elite Russians, you know, keep the jet fuel for themselves and their private jets. I assure you this is how things are going to go because there are the haves and the have-nots, remember. That there's a whole area that yesterday were protesting because their airport has just been abandoned. They just said, yeah, we're not flying over there anymore. And they just basically shut the airport on them. And this is going to happen more and more. You're going to see more and more of this. So high above the masses, the Russian elite will sit on their, you know, 150 million private jets. Well, everybody else is unable to fly. Just imagine how surprised they're going to be when their power grid starts to collapse, eh? Because that's also coming. There are sneaky people working on that as I speak. So yeah, that's just another sign of the times, shall we say? Little sign of the times. I can get rid of that now. There we go. And here's another sign of the times. And I've got two examples of this, and I'll tell you this, and then I need to go to work. So, armed men are now entering workplaces and simply declaring the civilians who work there as, welcome to the army, you're now a soldier. They're not asking for consent, they're not asking for volunteers, they're literally saying, you guys, you're joining the army. You see, if you ignore politics long enough, one day it comes to you. So there's that. And then there is this. Moscow troops have raided Novosibirsk gymnasiums as well. Because, you know, those guys pumping iron, they're the stronger ones. And those guys probably going to be able to carry some stuff and, you know, carry out missions. We don't want to take just the drunks off the streets anymore. No, I mean, those guys aren't useful for much anyway. But look at these guys who are pumping iron in gyms. These will work for us much better than those scumbags off the streets. So when we say mobilization is coming, I think we can safely say that it's started. Yeah. Not officially, but it started. And these guys in Novosibirsk, the gym bros, and normally the gym bros are very loyal to the, government. They're normally part of the gangs as well, They run the gyms and certain resources in the areas. And so local mafia is going to be dead pleased when they find out that half their muscle has disappeared into the war. So all they're doing here is upping the body count, of course. So they've gone into a bunch of gyms here and basically said, all you guys that are here, grab your stuff. Come on, I'm going to take you off to the mobilization office. And so more meat for the meat grinder, eh? Now, unless they do a mass mobilization, it's going to be hard for them to keep up with the monthly losses. But this is where they're, where they're trying to aim for. Now, the figures that they say that they're going to mobilize as well are, shall we say, unrealistic, because there's only so many people you're going to find at the gyms. You're probably better off getting people out of the fuel lines. A lot more people there. They've already lost what, 500,000 dead and 1 million crippled, and they're just upping that price. They weren't exaggerating, some of these people who were talking previously, when they said they're going to require a miracle not to collapse, because when you do the mathematics on this, it turns out that it's not working in Russia's favor. It's absolutely terminal for their situation. 57,000 lost during the Battle of the Somme. And well, we can see the current situation, can't we? Yes. That was just a bad day compared to what they're doing now. And trying to, defeat a meat grinder by just jamming more meat into it doesn't work, because the meat grinder just keeps on churning. One of the other things that they're going to need, I mean, they're still pretending they're an empire, obviously. 35,000 losses a month seems very high, doesn't it? But there were battles where 35,000 were lost in a day. But Ukraine hasn't stopped at that 35,000. They have said, we will go on to 50,000 if necessary. If Russia provides them, we will cut them down. And pretending, yes, absolutely, they are pretending. The Battle of the Somme indeed had an empire behind it. Moscovia, has fuel lines all over the entire country. One of the things that they had when they were the USSR and they fell into collapse was fuel. They still had fuel and the ability to refine fuel. Yes, it was back in the day and things were different then, but the whole point was that their refineries still worked. And this is going to be so much worse because none of that is working for them now. So can you imagine that the absolute starvation that's coming? And they will have earned this fate. They will have absolutely earned it. Also, one of the things that they should be able to do if they're going to mobilize all these extra people is arm them. And we've discovered that they're not brilliant at that either. I don't know if you've seen some of these guys walking along the front lines with sticks, because that's going to help, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, it might ward off a small drone for a short period of time, but no. Another thing, they won't arm them because it might give them an idea to resist. So they're going to give them arms at the very last minute, if at all. And I just feel as though, they're just throwing these people's lives away. They're going to end up at war with one another just because some of them really want to go to war and a lot of them don't. Never mind, eh? Never mind. Oh, I have one last joyous occasion for you before I go to work, and I apologise, but there's so much going on here. This particular one I liked a lot, though. This is a family who used to live in Crimea, and they've decided that it's best for them to go back to Russia. And they went on a little road trip all the way back to wherever it was they came from. Let's have a little look at what they have to say, because I feel as though as well they're the guy who's talking here is a little bit optimistic. So he says, unfortunately, we've decided to temporarily leave Crimea. Now, you know what happens when Russians say this is temporary? You know, like their fuel problems. It's temporary. Yeah, okay, I believe you. It was very difficult because our whole life has been made there. You know, because when they moved in, they just made it their own. They stole somebody else's home and, you know, just decided it was theirs. But we could no longer tolerate the restrictions, the lack of electricity, and with it, the lack of water, the lack of propane gas for the stove. Cooking is simply impossible without electricity and gas, and so the children and I decided to go to our homeland. Note that he doesn't give his wife a choice, just the children and him. The wife just comes along whether she likes it or not. I'm sure she was okay with it, but, you know, not the point. The journey was not easy. It was hard. We drove for 5 days all together in one car. But we are home now. Note, he says home. And that's where you're going to stay, buddy. Home. That's where you need to be. In fact, look at that. The Ukrainian sanctions here are working very well. They're encouraging these people to go back home. 5 days, by the way. Surprised he had the fuel. Of course, I want to go back to Crimea and I hope that everything will end soon. Well, if you do visit Crimea in the future, just remember that you're going to need your passport, mate. But can you see just the regular people, the regular Russians that moved into Crimea and claimed it as their own after 2014, now starting to realise that it's probably not the best place to be. And some of them are indeed intelligent enough to figure out that it's best to go back home, back to where they came from. And this particular family, I mean, they look like quite a nice family, to be honest. You know, they're cute kids and all that. They have decided to do just that. And what a good decision. More of that. I mean, follow that man's fine example and take your families out of Crimea. Because if you want to feed yourselves, you know, that's quite an important one, I would think. Right, I'm done, Firefella. I've stopped waffling. Is there anything you need to add before we go?
No, sweet. Well, just one thing. So I'd like to thank everybody for attending Mocker's TED Talk today. The title of which is Russia is Collapsing, and hashtag the shit out of that. Because they are, and they know they are, and they're just getting worse day by day, people. Don't forget, fundraisers, people, as much as you can, as often as you can, and probably set up, like Mockers, a monthly donation, which will help them because they know what's coming in. And just keep the support up. But Russia is collapsing. Hashtag it, people. NAFO, get on that. And Slava Ukraini, see you all tomorrow, Mockers. Well done, you. Good talk.
Slava.
Slava Nazi.
Smert Braham.
Belaham.
Smith Braham. All right. And let's see, coming up tomorrow, we have a canceled segment, and then we have Alan and Robin coming up tomorrow for Ukraine Today at 7 p.m. Eastern, 2 a.m. Kyiv. Then we start up again with Firefella and Mockers at 2 a.m. Eastern and 9 a.m. Kyiv for a couple of hours, and then we go into the next day where from there Will and Awana will take over at 4 a.m. Eastern, and I think that's right. Anyway, 4 a.m. Eastern and 11 a.m. Kyiv. The 11 a.m. Kyiv is what matters. So we'll with that, I think that takes you up for takes you forward for a day, and that's what we have coming up. And as soon as I get a minute or two, I will schedule the spaces for tomorrow. With that, I will say Spiropopotamus.
Popatramos.
Hippopotamus.